don't get it. I'm sorry, I don't get it.
She's not the author for me.
It's no secret that I am not a fan of Colleen Hoover.
I will no longer be reading Colleen Hoover books.
It's stupid, but it's my thing now.
Everyone see that because I will not be doing it again.
Colleen Hoover, not my bag. Her books are often just over the top dramatic.
I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated so many things about it.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. So you might be a little confused on this video, and you have every right to be, because I was never, ever, ever gonna read another Colleen Hoover book. With the movie coming out of It Ends With Us, I decided that I needed to give my full opinion on this book, and I couldn't do that unless I had actually read it. Now, I have not watched the movie, and that's something I will consider at a later date. But I read this, and I took notes, so I have a lot to say. Please forgive my voice. I have been kind of having a cold for like a week, and I was waiting to film a video until it was gone, but it does not really feel like it wants to leave. So this is where we're at. And yeah, so we're gonna dissect It Ends With Us. Obviously, as you saw from my intro, like, I've never been a fan of Colleen Hoover's. If you're new here, hi, hello, I'm not a fan of Colleen Hoover. And I have put out videos about why and stuff, and I will definitely link them for you so you can watch those if you feel so inclined. Now, this video type has been done before, but I hopefully have some fun new takes for you, so let's get started. Okay, so chapter 1. This book opens with Lily, our main character. She's just hanging out on a rooftop in Boston. We don't really know why. We know she doesn't live in this building, but how she got in still remains a mystery. So she's just hanging out up there. She's just come back from her dad's funeral. Her dad was very abusive, and she gave like the best non-eulogy ever. Honestly, applaud that. But she's just hanging out up here. So then this guy opens the door and comes up onto the roof where she is and is kicking furniture and like throwing stuff around. And her first instinct isn't to be terrified, because I mean, that would be mine. And like, I know that what's coming later in the book, obviously. So I see red flags, but literally, like, I would have been already a little turned off, because I don't know. Like, I've never had like violent urges when I'm mad like that, so I just don't see, nothing good's gonna come here. So they start talking, and we find out he is a neurosurgeon. So just quickly going back to the whole rooftop thing, she got into this building that this man has neurosurgeon money, and there's no doorman like that just let her in or something. I really don't get this whole bit, but Lily doesn't have a problem with his aggression. She thinks that it's great that he has a way to get it all out, which, I mean, a chair and furniture on the roof is much preferable to a human, so that's good, I guess. Okay, so they're talking. His name is Ryle Kincaid, which I know he did not give himself this name, but someone did. And that someone is CoHo, and I hate it. We also find out that Lily's full name is Lily Blossom Bloom, which, you know, is ridiculous, but I like that the character is self-aware that it's ridiculous, because it kind of makes the cringe, like, slightly less. So they start playing this game with each other called Naked Truths, which is really just, like, asking questions and don't lie about it. But they made it into a game called Naked Truths. Lily's first naked truth is that she had an abusive father, and she's not really that sad that he died. And also that she harbors some guilt for not helping her mom or really doing anything, even though she was a literal child and that's not her job. So then Ryle, he has a naked truth that is, he had a patient die that day, a little boy who had been playing with a gun and shot his brother to death, and that like that Ryle wasn't even like empathetic really when he went and told the parents. He just like kind of reamed at them for having a loaded gun in the house, which like agreed, but like maybe let them mourn for a second. I don't know. So the next thing that he says for his naked truth is that he wants to fuck her, which, I mean, I'm already uncomfortable with this man kicking furniture and like just general being aggressive, and I don't care how hot he is. If he said that to me, I would fucking bolt. She is not does not feel that way. She's a little taken aback, but she's apparently feeling non-threatened by this, so good for her. Her next naked truth is that she had sex for the first time with a homeless man, which, like, again, I know what's coming in this book because I know a lot about this book. Obviously, at this point, I've read it already. But even when I was reading this for the first time, like, I know what's going to happen. And so I hate that that's how she described as, like, a fun fact to this guy about this man that she says that she, like, was her first love, was her first everything, she'll never get over him. Like, just reducing him to he was a homeless guy. I don't know. I didn't love that. Ryle talks about how he doesn't do relationships. Yes, one of those. I don't do relationships. He just only likes one-night stands. And even though she's like, yeah, well, I'm not into one-night stands, he still tries to come on to her, and it's gross. But then his phone rings, so he has to go back to work. Thank God, she gets an out. They don't exchange numbers or anything, so it's just, that's that. Chapter 2. Lily is at home with her roommate Lucy because she's still on bereavement leave. She's kind of bored, so she's like going through her old stuff, and she finds a box of all her old diaries from like her teenage years. And she didn't write diaries like a normal person. She just wrote them as letters to Ellen DeGeneres, which like, that did not age well, but nevertheless, even in the book, it was, a long time ago. So in the first one, she writes about how she sees a teenager that goes to her school squatting in the house that's vacant behind her house. She asks her friend about him, and she's like, oh yeah, that's Atlas Corrigan, and he smells bad. So hate that for him. She starts to like leave him food because she clearly can see that he's just living in this abandoned house and doesn't have any food. So yeah, she leaves him food. They start to become friends. So I don't know if Colleen Hoover had written these journal entries with the intention to sound like she was 16, but if she did, or maybe even 15, I'm not sure. She nailed it. The writing in the whole book is not good, but like in these letters to Ellen, it is like exceptionally not good. So absolutely nailed that. Way to go, CoHo. And then back in the present day, we find out that Lily's mom is going to move to Boston, and she's from Maine. And now that her husband's died, she's just like, okay, I'm going to move, be closer to my kid. Chapter 3. So we are 6 months later, and let me tell you just up front, this one actually did say 6 months later, but throughout this book, we are like jumping forward in time at like very weird intervals. It'll be like one chapter, the next will be immediate, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 weeks later, but they didn't tell us that. We're just supposed to pick it up, and I don't love that, but nevertheless. 6 months later, Lily used her inheritance from her father to buy a flower shop, but it needs a lot of work. So, conveniently, this random lady just walks by named Alyssa, which that's a normal name. Why do we need to spell it like this? This isn't a normal spelling. I just hate it. So she just decides to walk by and like say there was like a hiring sign in the door from like the business that used to be there. And she walks in and she's just like, hi, are you hiring? And they're like, no. But she kind of like just really inserts herself into Lily's life, and it's bizarre. And like, I love that Lily is not, put off by it, but I would be like a little skeptical. I'm like, why does this lady want to work here so badly? Why does she want to be my friend? Like at first she's like, I'll just work for free. She's like, no, very strange. This whole interaction where these two meet could honestly have been done so much better in like a way more believable way, but this is what we went with, so I guess we will take it. But they're just like automatically best friends right away. And also, Lily doesn't really have any friends at this point, which is just a little strange. So they're chatting about like the flower shop and what's going to be, because Alyssa works there now, and they decide they're going to make the flower shop themed around people who hate flowers. She's like, every flower shop caters to people that like love pink and like fluffy things and all of that. And I think we should cater to like dark and villainous and like things that people, who don't like flowers would like. It doesn't seem like a great business decision, but Lily has a master's in marketing and I don't, so I'll just leave her to it. There's lots of like crates and boxes left from the previous tenant, and so Lily's like climbing up on stuff and she falls and hurts her ankle. So Alyssa calls her husband, who's like down the street watching a hockey game, and her brother is with him. And so she's like, he's a doctor, so, like you see where this is going. So they come down. She's like, bring ice. Come down to this flower shop. And oh my God, who is the brother? It's Mr. Ryle. He fixes her ankle up, yes, and he starts to come on to her again saying that I still want to fuck you. And that's when Alyssa comes back into the room, and she's like, what in the holy hell just happened here? And Lily's like, we kind of knew each other. We met before, like, whatever. Like, it's not totally out of the blue, which, like, it's still pretty jarring. I don't know. But Ryle really wants to drive her home, but Lily's like, no, I got this. I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm driving myself home. Scene. Chapter 4. Lily's back at home and she is reading more of her Ellen diaries. She's just kind of becoming friends with Atlas a little more and starts letting him shower and hang out at her place while her parents are at work, but after they get back from school. So that's nice. She also writes about an incident of her father beating her mother. So that's the whole chapter. Doesn't need any more detail than that. So a few days later, she can walk again. She's fine. She goes back into her flower shop and Alyssa and her husband Marshall have literally fixed up the whole place. It is like ready to go. So minimum wage employee of the year. We love Alyssa. Later on, she's back at home and just kind of relaxing, and she just knock on the door. So she opens the door and oh my gosh, Dr. Ryle again. He says he's knocked on 29 doors trying to find hers. Now back when they first met on the roof, she had like kind of vaguely pointed to the building that she lived in. So that was kind of all he was going with. So he knocked on 29 people's doors trying to find her, which if there was any sort of like a deeper connection I felt, then maybe this would have been like romantic or something. But honestly, it just feels ick. And it feels like a line has been crossed. Like in this year of our Lord 2024, like that just feels like too much. And again, he doesn't do this because he like enjoyed her company earlier or whatever. It's because he's studying for his like exams. He's in his residency and he can't get her out of his mind unless they have sex. This is not the flattery you think it is, sir. Like am I crazy? Like, I would be so put off and I would be like, get the hell out of my house. He's like, just sleep with me once and I'll leave you alone forever. And what? Luckily, Lily kind of has the same reaction at first. And I mean, she should have shut the door and been done with it. But she decides to make his horniness her responsibility for some reason. And she's like, okay, I will entertain this idea, despite her making excuses that she really shouldn't have to make. I don't know if we're supposed to see this as empowering because she's like, I'll do it, but I need to go shower. I want to doll myself up. We're doing this on my terms. But I don't know. I didn't see it that way. I just hate everything about it. So yeah, she goes into the bathroom, takes a shower, like starts to get herself sexy, and when she comes back to the bedroom, he is passed out. Girl. The next morning, he's embarrassed and like apologetic, but he leaves and he's like, I'll never bother you again, even though they didn't have sex. And for some reason, she's like bummed out about that, but I don't see why, because I would be like, thank God, get this man out of my life. Like this was just no bueno. And like I get that like he is the brother of her new bestie, but still like, nah. Chapter 6. So we have moved forward in time to the soft opening of Lily Bloom's flower shop, which is hard for me to say without laughing. Once again, in comes Dr. Ryle. He is the first customer, and he once again hits on Lily, and then he's like, I want to order a bouquet of flowers, and he writes the card and then leaves. He orders the flowers to be delivered to the shop for Lily, who owns them already. Imagine having that kind of money. Alyssa seems to be like willfully ignorant because she's like confused about this whole thing. She's like, that's silly goose. He put the address of the shop where it's supposed to be sent. What the heck? And I'm just like, girl, really? Really? Chapter 7, Lily and her gay friend Devin, that we never ever hear from or see again past this scene, go to Alyssa's birthday party together. Lily is like, I'm gonna make Ryle jealous with him, and I don't know. I don't know. But he kind of like low-key abandons her once they get to the party. So she runs into Ryle and they're like kind of looking at this photograph that's on the wall. It's like very blown up and it's kind of hard to tell what it is. And so it's like a little blurry and whatever. And Lily realizes it's a picture that he like snapped really quickly on his phone before he left the roof the first night they met. This isn't normal behavior. He had it like blown up and like artified, and yeah, that's it. I feel like this is obsession and like not in a cute way. She freaks out a little, understandably, and she goes up to the roof because that's apparently where she goes, and of course he follows her because of course. So she finally like lets him have it and is like, it's really hurtful to me that you keep saying you only want to sleep with me. I really like you, but I don't feel like I want to be like a one night stand for you, and so I really don't want to have contact because it's upsetting that that's all you want from me. He doesn't really respond to this, so she like storms off, and then he runs after her and like picks her up Disney princess style and like takes him into his bedroom because he's living with Alyssa at this point. I forgot to mention that. In front of all the party guests, which I don't know. I wouldn't want to do. I mean, that's not a thing adults do, but that's okay. She's trying to get out of the room, and he is like not really letting her, but says he wants to prove how much he likes her too, and they're gonna sleep next to each other, but they're not gonna have sex. So like they're done with this party at this point because they're just gonna go to bed. The next morning, Alyssa wakes up and Lily's in the kitchen making coffee. Doesn't seem surprised in any way. Lily finally explains that she had met Ryle 6 months earlier and that they had kind of had this like little flirtation going on, but like nothing crazy. And then Ryle walks in and he and Alyssa kind of like bicker about like whether or not they should be allowed to date, which is weird because Lily is sitting right there in front of them and they're talking about her like she's not there. So that's, I don't love. Chapter 8, Lily's roommate has got engaged and she's moving out, which Lily is so excited about because now when she finally does have sex with Ryle, they can be as loud as they want. We're back to the Ellen diaries in this chapter. So it's starting to get cold out, and again, they live in Maine. And so Lily is worried about Atlas not having heat. She literally says, I would feel pretty freaking awful if he froze to death, which, yes. I mean, it's not your responsibility, but like also, of course you would. I don't know. Atlas helps her get her little garden out back ready for winter and admits that she like really doesn't have any friends because she is not allowed to go over to anyone's house and she's not gonna bring someone to her house because of her dad. They like talk in metaphors a bunch about plants and humans and how everyone needs nurturing. And then they wipe cow manure on each other and like giggle about it. And it's very, very strange. In another journal entry to Ellen, she goes over another instance of her dad abusing her mom in which she tried to intervene and ended up needing 9 stitches in her head. And the next day at school, she lies to Atlas and says she fell. He rolls up his sleeve to show cigarette burns on his arms and says, yeah, I used to fall a lot too. He's onto her. That actually made me very, very sad because, like, no one should have to live like that, especially children who don't have a way to get out. I don't want that to sound like I'm blaming anyone. No one should have to live their lives like that. So despite the fact that 2 pages earlier she said that Atlas really needs to stay away from her house when her parents are home, she invites him to start sleeping in her bedroom with her and just like sleep on the floor so he doesn't freeze to death because she would feel so freaking bad. Now he finally kind of like reveals his origin story. He didn't ever know his dad. His mom was married to a guy that didn't like him, and as soon as he turned 18, kicked him out. He's just trying to like hang on until he graduates and then he's going to join the Marines. Again, this chapter was like super sad, and Lily talks about how she hates rich people who don't use their money for good, and like, same girl. This is the best part of the book so far. Chapter 9. Back in the present, Lily has made herself sad reading these diaries, and Dr. Ryle invites himself over to her apartment, and Lily is just like going out of her mind because he's wearing scrubs, and apparently that's like a real thing she's got going on. Like, she talks about it for pages. They lay in bed together. They're acting very coupley, which is very strange considering how they had left things. And they finally have sex, but she wasn't pressured into it, so we love to see it. Chapter 10, Ryle sends Lily flowers from her own shop again, and Lily confirms that Alyssa and Marshall donate to charity and that they're the good kind of rich people, so cool. Ryle then invites himself to dinner with Lily and her mom, and this was a little strange, but like, it seems like he's just that type of guy who is like so charming that you can't really like say no to him, or you just feel like you don't want to say no to him. Now, mom vibes are vibing, but she feels a little bit like Ryle is acting too much like a boyfriend, considering that they like really have just started dating and, you know, it's still kind of like a trial relationship. Anyways, bombshell. Atlas works at the restaurant. After initially they just like pretend they don't know each other, Lily gets up to use the bathroom and sees Atlas like in a back hallway. They kind of like catch up for a moment. Meanwhile, Ryle is charming Mama Bloom at dinner. On the way out for when she's done eating or whatever, before she gets in her car, Atlas like chases her down, and she finds out he has a girlfriend, and they're a little catch up, and like that's all they talk about before she leaves the restaurant. Chapter 11, back in our Ellen diaries, Atlas is super sick because like he doesn't have heat in the house that he's staying in. And Lily nurses him back to health, which is sweet. And so it's just become a routine that he sneaks in the window and sleeps on her floor with her. Well, she sleeps in the bed, I assume. And Atlas reveals that he has an uncle that lives in Boston that he could go live with. Somehow Lily doesn't know how far Boston is from where they live, even though it's like the only major city in New England. And I feel like that's something that you would know. But anyways, they finally kiss, and it's Lily's first kiss ever. So now every time he comes over after school, they're just making out the whole time while they watch Ellen. In the next entry, Lily walks into her dad about to rape her mom. Lily goes to get a knife, but Atlas stops her, and the dad passes out, and Mom then comes into Lily's room after she's like back in there and tells her like to forget everything she saw, nothing happened. And she sees Atlas, but she doesn't really get concerned about it, so that's cool. Back in real time, Ryle is saying he decided he does want to have a relationship with Lily, and then her mom texts her to say that she approves. Chapter 12, Lily does some weird, like, steampunk shit for her flowers on the opening day of the shop, and they're just overwhelmed with business because of course they are. After work, they go to a bar. Alyssa, Marshall, Ryle, and Lily go to a bar, and this is the perfect time for Alyssa to tell her husband that she's pregnant. So they all celebrate, that's great. Lily and Ryle go home and have sex. Chapter 13, literally just more sex. Nothing else of substance happens. Substance, like there's any substance in this book at all. Chapter 14, Ryle comes over to Lily's house after work, and he's very excited because he's going to do a surgery on conjoined twins. They talk a lot about like his fine motor skills, and this distracts Lily, so she's making a casserole, and it ends up burning in the oven. Ryle's dumbass takes the casserole dish out of the oven without a pot holder and drops it on the floor. Glass goes everywhere. He's burned his hands. Lily is laughing because I'm sure she's very nervous. And he like smacks her and she hits her head on a cabinet, I think. Obviously not okay with that, but like don't laugh at him. And it's funny because I was like very like, what kind of dumbass does this? And then not 2 days after I read this chapter, I had taken a pan out of the oven. I used a pot holder. But then I went to like scrape something off of it with a spatula, and I like grabbed it with my hand, and I have like burn marks and blisters. So that I was like, okay, maybe you're not as dumb as I thought, Ryle, but like, so literally like as soon as this happens, he, like, a switch flips back and he starts apologizing to her. She kind of, like, shoves him away, in which he falls and gets glass, like, all up in his hands, which, as we spoke about earlier, he needs for surgery. He, like, wipes off the blood a little bit, but then they just start kissing and, like, having sex, and it's gotta be, like, the messiest ever because there's gotta be, like, blood from his hands everywhere. Logistically, it does not make sense to me, but okay. After they're done, Lily is like, okay, listen, I know that we just slept together, but if anything like that ever happens again, I am like out the door. I'm not taking this. And then they exchange I love yous. So that's very nice. Chapter 15, our fearless foursome go out to dinner again at the restaurant Atlas works at because it was just so good. And Alyssa, I guess, has not been at work because this is when she first sees that Lily has a black eye. And of course, Ryle lied about it. So luckily, this time Atlas does not make an appearance at the meal until the very end, but we find out that he's actually the owner of the restaurant and the head chef. A lot of stuff happens really fast, so I just put some in bullet points. So 1, Atlas walks up and notices Lily's eye and then looks at Ryle's hand. 2, he storms off. 3, the table decides the chef is an asshole. 4, Lily gets up to go to the bathroom / freak out, and on her way out, Atlas forces her back into the bathroom and locks the door. 5, he demands that she leave Ryle. 6, she goes to leave, and Ryle is standing outside the door, seeing them in there together. 7, Ryle is pissed, but Atlas just walks away until, oh wait, no, he doesn't. he attacks Ryle. Lily says, Atlas! And then Ryle realizes who he is. The homeless boy you pity fucked. I knew that whole conversation on the roof felt shady and it was gonna come back around. So they get into like an all-out brawl, and eventually like some of the waiters like break it up, and he's like, get the hell out of my restaurant. Never come back here. Apparently Alyssa and Marshall were just like totally oblivious to all of this going on, but Lily's like, I'll explain later. Ryle is super pissed and they make up though eventually. Chapter 16. So Ryle ends up still being able to perform this surgery despite the fact that he got burnt and also fell on glass. I feel like if he did that with his non-dominant hand, maybe, but like, why would you pull out something's not adding up. Atlas stops by Lily's flower shop because they had like talked about it a little bit, and he brings her a gift. He apologizes, and the gift is an autographed copy of Ellen's book. He also gives Lily like a little slip of paper with his phone number on it, which he tucks in between her phone and the case, in case she's ever in a situation where she needs it. Chapter 17. So Lily finally is reading the last entry in her Ellen diaries. Atlas has been gone in Boston for 6 months, and she is just heartbroken, devastated. We've all been there. 42 days after he left, he comes and knocks on her window, and it's her 16th birthday. He reveals that the first day that he was in the abandoned house, he was like ready to end his life, like in action. And then she turned on her light in her bedroom, and she looked like an angel, so that's why he decided not to. I don't even know what to say about that. He reveals that he is going to leave for the military soon, and one day when he like has his life together, he's going to come back and find her. It's implied that they have sex, and this is kind of the only time that it really happens, so they have sex. But Lily's dad comes into the room and beats Atlas with a baseball bat. He obviously ends up in the hospital, just like fully covered in blood, and Lily doesn't hear from him again until the chapter where they see each other in the restaurant. That's her last entry. Lily does some reflecting on her life. Part 2. Chapter 18. So Ryle has basically moved into Lily's apartment despite the fact that he has neurosurgeon money and could probably afford something a lot nicer than what she has. But I don't know. I don't do their finances. Lily finally meets Ryle and Alyssa's parents, and everything goes great. So great, in fact, that they decide this is going to be a really good thing. They are going to fly to Vegas and get married. They just like straight up like book tickets for the whole family and just flew on out there. On the plane over, though, don't worry, they have some discussions like, do you want kids someday? Do you want kids? I don't know. Like, these are not discussions you have like hours before your wedding. This is some reckless behavior, my friends. Chapter 19. So it's a month or so after the wedding. I told you, we just jump around. Ryle finds Atlas's phone number in Lily's phone case and like storms off and is very upset. When Lily tries to stop him, he pushes her down the stairs and she loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she's back in their apartment and he's still mad. He literally knocked her downstairs and she lost consciousness, and he is still mad at her when she comes back. But then all of a sudden a switch flips and he is apologizing and saying how much he loves her and he's so sorry and it will never happen again, whatever. She swears that she forgot his number was in there, that he did it, that she wasn't even really like whatever, but she does tell him to get the fuck out, which, yes girl, if only he would stay the fuck out. Chapter 20. The next morning, Ryle is sleeping outside of the apartment door, like as in he slept there the whole night, and she just steps around him to get out and go to work, which literally love this moment. She's just like, see, you're still sleeping out on my stoop. Well, can't be bothered to wake you up or like tell you to move inside or whatever. I'm just gonna step right over you. I love that. Given that Ryle broke her phone the night before, Lily has to go get a new phone before work. And when she finally does get to her flower shop, Ryle is there. He's chatting with his sister, and Alyssa starts demanding that there's something that he is not telling Lily and demands that he do so. So he tells her that like back the first time that they met, when he said that he was having a bad day and kicking chairs because he lost a patient and that patient had been playing with a gun, whatever. The reason that it hit him so hard was because that exact same situation happened to him. He killed their brother when he was little playing with a loaded gun. And he says he's not trying to use this trauma as an excuse for his behavior, but like it really seems like he is. This is why we don't marry people we just met. And yeah, okay, she forgives him. Chapter 21. The chapter opens with Lily making lots of excuses for Ryle's behavior. and him buying an apartment for her without consulting her. She mentions that, like, he shouldn't have done that, but since it's such a nice apartment, she lets it slide. I kind of get it, but I'm also like, we need to talk about the root cause. We need to talk about the principle of the thing. It's also in the same building with Alyssa and Marshall, so she's very close to her best friend and his sister and all of that. Chapter 22, Alyssa has her baby and decides to name it Riley with 2 E's because it's like Ryle with an E. Why? Why are we putting more Rileys into the world? Riley is a fine name, but like not spelled like this and not after someone named Ryle, because Ryle is the worst in name and personhood. Ryle mentions that he and Lily should have a baby soon. Nothing else happens in this chapter. Chapter 23, Lily's all excited that Ryle wants to have a baby with her. But, like, what? She's 25, and she's like, I don't know, this is kind of soon. But, like, I just feel like they should have talked about this more than, I guess. They talked about it earlier, but she seems surprised. Anyways, I hate them. When she gets home from work, Ryle makes her read this article in the newspaper about, like, the best new businesses in Boston. And she's mentioned in it. But guess who else is? Mr. Atlas Corrigan. He, like, makes a vague reference to, like, his first love or whatever in the interview, and Ryle is pissed. He also read her journals and realized that her tattoo is related to Atlas. I, like, literally got to this point in the book and I could not remember what her tattoo was, and I don't care enough to go look it up. So yeah, she has a tattoo and that somehow relates back to Atlas. He goes nuts. He tries to choke her, and then it seems like he is going to rape her. But she, like, moves her head, and I think she gets knocked out, and he also gets knocked out, I think. So we come back to the story, and Ryle is, of course, apologizing like crazy. They both fall asleep. Lily wakes up, and she sneaks out of bed, and she doesn't know who to call, because she doesn't want to bother Alyssa, because, like, it's her brother, and also she just had a baby. She doesn't want to call her mom, because I think she's like, oh, Mom will worry. And I'm like, Mom should be worried. Like, that's a valid thing to worry about. But anyways, she calls Atlas because I don't know. This seems like the worst person to call given the situation. So he comes to pick her up and, like, comes all the way to the front door, which honestly seems like the worst possible idea, but luckily nothing comes of it. He takes her to the hospital and whatever. I can tell I was, like, getting bored because all of these chapter summaries just get shorter and shorter. We're almost done. Chapter 24. At the hospital, they fix her all up, and they want to keep her for observation because she lost consciousness, but they can't do a CT scan. And why, might you ask? Because she is with child. Yes, she is pregnant, and against medical advice, she leaves the hospital with Atlas, and they go to his house. Chapter 25, Atlas makes her a nice breakfast because he's a chef, so, like, yes, please, he needs to be making you breakfast, girl. Lily starts to write another letter to Ellen, and it's actually a pretty powerful letter. I was shocked. She's explaining how she's become what she was always so angry at her mother for being, and, like, how wrong it is that we look at an abused woman and say, why didn't you leave, instead of saying to the abuser, like, why did you beat your spouse? Like, so, agreed completely. Love that. Good chapter, no notes. Chapter 26. Nothing really happens except for Lily stays at Atlas's house for a few more days. And, like, fuck Ryle for real, but, like, if she actually does want to kind of, like, work on her marriage and somehow work that out, I don't think that's a good idea, but if she seems to, this is not going to help that. Chapter 27. Lily goes into the shop that, like, I guess is running itself at this point, because we really don't hear much about it, but she goes into the shop. She has no chill because she is so stressed that Ryle is going to come into the flower shop. She still hasn't talked to him. Her employees leave for the day, because she got employees also, by the way. He comes in and he gives her the keys to the apartment and says, hey, I'm going to do this fellowship in England. I'll be gone for 3 months. Everything's, like, been paid for in advance. So, 3 months apart, whatever. She tells him to get out. Love that. And she, like, has a full-on meltdown, which I completely understand. Chapter 28. So Lily ends up going back to Atlas's house because she's just not ready to, like, be in the apartment that she was, like, abused in, which totally understand. Alyssa wants to see her, though, and is like, she doesn't know anything about what happened and doesn't understand why Lily's not at her house. Lily lies and says that she had hit her head because she knows she's going to see Alyssa at some point, and she's going to have stitches on her head, and it's going to be weird. A couple of Atlas's friends come over when she's there and he's not. And, it's a little weird, but, like, I would have been way more wary about letting them in, but she does, and it all works out fine. But one of them asks about Lily's stitches, and she's just like, my husband tried to rape me and I hit my head. And I kind of love that she just came out with it and she's not like pulling any punches, but also kind of weird to like just straight up ask like what happened to your head. I don't know. Is that weird? And then one of them decides to like sell her some like MLM snake oil to like put it on and it will get rid of it. And I'm like, is this a what is the purpose of this sentence? Why are we doing this? They all play poker for a little while, and at one point Lily asks his friends about Cassie, who's the girlfriend he said he had, and they're like, who? He straight up made up a girlfriend just to make himself look better, I guess. So they like go to another room and she's like, ooh, yeah, oops, sorry. But why would you lie to me? She's kind of like disproportionately angry about this. I mean, it's like something that they said like one time and then it didn't really come up. It's not like he created like a whole backstory for her. So I don't know. It's definitely weird, but I don't think that he deserves the like wrath that she gives him on that. Anyways, she, you know, starts crying and she's like, why did you never come back to Maine for me? And he's like, I did when I got out of my first tour of the Marines. I came to see you and you were laughing like on a bench with a guy and then you kissed him, and so I saw that you were already so happy, so I left. And he also lied about having the girlfriend because she looked happy with Ryle, and you know, if he said he was single, she might have tried to like start something, and he didn't want to mess up what she had with Ryle because like she seemed happy. They both just decide that like, okay, maybe we just need to not see each other for a little while. Like, this is too hard. We can't just be friends. And, you know, she was not in a place to be having a guy. I mean, she's still married and she hadn't decided what she wanted to do about that. So yeah, it's actually pretty sweet and emotional. I really liked that scene. Chapter 29, Lily finally admits to Alyssa what's going on. Even though Alyssa had kind of already figured it out, she pretty much completely sides with Lily as she should, but it's very awkward because Ryle is her brother. I get it. Yeah, she's like, you know, as his sister, I want you guys to stay together, but as your best friend, I will never speak to you again if you go back to him. So like, that's good, girl power. But anyways, Alyssa's really excited about the baby and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna plan you a shower and I'm gonna give you all my maternity clothes. And it seems weird to plan a shower because Ryle still doesn't even know that she's pregnant. I feel like that's weird. Chapter 30. Apparently, we've moved forward the few months now because Ryle comes home and it's a little earlier than he's supposed to be home. Marshall is also in the apartment and he's like, I'm here for you. If you need me, like, I'm here to make sure that you're okay, Lily. I still ick. Like, I don't think Ryle needed to, like, show up, but whatever. So they talk and she like literally lets him have it. She absolutely rails on him, as she should. He says that he was going to take a job in Minneapolis, but now that he knows she's pregnant, he doesn't want to. He wants to stay in Boston to be near the baby. He starts kissing her and she is like, no, absolutely not. Not a thing. So great. And on the way out the door, she says that she wishes more than anything that the baby wasn't his. And he is like extremely wounded by this. And she says that she only said it to be cruel, but like, girl, where's the lie? You should not want that baby to be his. Chapter 31. Lily babysits Riley so that Alyssa and Marshall can have sex for the first time since having the baby. And that is the chapter. Chapter 32. So Lily still hasn't told her mom like any of this, and her mom still doesn't know that she's pregnant. And if you live in the same city as your mom, I feel like that's going to be very hard to hide. Anyways, she is understandably nervous to tell her mom what's been going on with Ryle because she doesn't want her mom to try to convince her to stay because that's what her mom did, and also she loves Ryle so much. But her mom's actually incredibly insightful and gives her really good advice and talks about her regrets and makes really good points about why Lily should aspire to do better than she did. They have a nice sweet moment. Chapter 33, it's time for the baby shower, and after the shower, Ryle helps Lily take stuff to the apartment. He is not staying in the apartment, but he helps her move everything up there and says that he will put the crib together, and she's like, okay. And, you know, they're both really sad and whatever, but Lily does not like back down. I feel proud of her. She is like, yeah, okay, thank you for doing this, but like, this doesn't change anything. Chapter 34. Lily's painted a nice mural in the nursery, but she doesn't really have anyone around that she can show it to. So she calls Ryle to come look at her mural. They have like a nice, honest conversation where Lily says that she's not going to keep him from having a relationship with the child, but that she is not sure what she wants to do yet regarding their relationship, whether or not she wants a divorce. And I get that this is a mature response, but like, I would not be okay having my child around my baby knowing how violent he is and how it's like an Incredible Hulk thing. He just like freaks out all of a sudden and it comes out of nowhere. And like, I don't know, that's just not something that I feel is good. And I would be very wary of that. Chapter 35, it's some time later, I guess. We don't really know. But Ryle is living with Lily again. He is sleeping on the couch, which love that. But like, it still is weird. I don't know. Even though he's like the father of her baby and she's like waiting to go into labor, I still do not think I would want to be like alone in a house with him. I get that it's convenient, but I don't know. So Lily goes into labor, she has the baby, it goes very smoothly. They name the baby Emerson after the brother that died, which I feel like they could have had a much worse name, so I'm honestly thrilled with Emerson. So bravo. The three of them have like a sweet little moment, but then she's just like, I want a divorce. So we love that. Way to go, Lily. She is completely brutally honest and does not like pull any punches. She says what she means and does not back down, and I love that. I like Lily way more than I thought I would when I started this book. All right, epilogue. It's 11 months later and Lily and Ryle are now divorced, but they seem to be co-parenting very well. Lily has moved into an apartment near her flower shop, and I don't know, we love to see an amicable divorce, but like, he tried to rape you and beat you. I just don't know if that needed to. Anyways, even if you like forgive this person and, you know, want to give your child the best chance at everything, whatever, you don't need to like hang out with them all the time. It seems like they hang out all the time. Whatever. It's easy to judge from the outside, but it just seems like a bad idea. Lily runs into Atlas. They like briefly catch up and they have like a moment, and you can see that they are going to rekindle their romance. And then Colleen Hoover wrote an entire book about that, which apparently should have just been and more of the epilogue from what I hear. So that is It Ends With Us. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Still really not a CoHo fan, but I at least can say that I've read this one. That is her most popular book, and, you know, I can better articulate all the things that I don't like about her books. I really don't want to read anymore, but if this video entertained you and, you know, you tell me you want me to read another book that I don't think I'll like, I'll probably do it because that's how I operate. But anyways, yeah, this, again, Colleen Hoover, not for me, but this was pleasantly surprising, but also keep in mind that my expectations were literally underground, buried in the dirt, deep down there. I'd give this like a 2.5, maybe 3-star book, so that's a lot better than I think I expected. So all of you Colleen Hoover lovers out there that tell me that I'm wrong, like, now I have, you know, a really solid reasoning. I read it and I'll tell you why I didn't like it that much, yada yada yada. But again, wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Still hate the name Ryle though. We don't need to do that. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would. If you want me to do more videos like this, let me know and I'll think about it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.